Starting the recording. Hit that stream button. 3, 2, 1. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also I'd like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
Doing good, Mike. It's yeah, nice short week at work. Nothing really happened, and
I'm glad
yeah,
nothing
just
happened
sort
for
of
you.
and just a nice kind of an odd week. Kind of feeling like you're tired because you're coming back off of a holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Um, but it'll be nice. It was still a nice week. How was your week, Mike?
It was short and long all at the same time. Had a power outage one day, so had to deal with that, and then had a couple other
Okay.
things. Just it was a crazy week, but I got off a little early today. Made it a little nice. Hung out with the wife. Get to hang out with you. Be done with this, and then we're gonna have a long weekend because we're going out of town tomorrow for just a day trip to Aldi and Sam's. But before that, we got a show to do. In that show, we're
We
going to
do.
talk about the playoffs, and we're going to talk about NASCAR. Rich, what else do we got?
We got to talk about the Indy 500, some Cubs baseball, unfortunately, and we're going to wrap up our last NFL topic of looking at the Amazon or Thursday games, just a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, or whether we might watch that. Mike, all that and more, but what do we got to do first?
Intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich, before we get any of that, Cinnamon Toast Crunch versus Alphabets, round 2. Rich, this to me is a no-brainer. I don't even know if I voted because I thought that it... I know I voted because I shared it. Yeah, I shared it. To me, this is an obvious one, but apparently one of our devotees does not agree.
Yeah, I voted for Cinnamon Toast Crunch as well. And when I was looking for images of this, I don't even think that Alphabets is an active cereal that you can buy in the store anymore.
Is it not?
I that's what I looked at because I like sometimes get my images for these from like Target or Walmart, and when I did just my Google image search, a box of this stuff came up on eBay. So I don't even know if this is if Alphabets is a current cereal you can buy anymore in the stores.
Uh, maybe. I mean, you might be correct. I didn't realize it was discontinued. That's how bad it
Okay,
is.
so yeah, well, I don't know if it'd be just as bad, but maybe just the sales weren't there.
Yeah.
But Mike, what were the poll results?
We had 7 votes. 6 people voted for Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Mikey, a roterer, voted for Alphabets. Rich,
Okay,
so
go
here's who
ahead.
voted for Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Me, Solomon Stroop, Brooke Rice, Danielle Hart, Rich Hendricks, and Andrea Hecht. Man, I I don't understand how you vote for Alphabets. That's weird to me. I
All
mean,
right, especially when you have Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I don't know if you had both those cereals in front of you, and you're told, all right, you can only pick one. I'm gonna go Cinnamon Toast Crunch every single time.
you put any cereal up against Cinnamon Toast Crunch for me, I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch wins 99.99% of the time. Occasionally, I might, like, if it's one per day. If you say for the rest of my life, 100% Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Outside of that, it's going to be, um, like, if it's one-offs, maybe I'll do Reese's Puff cereals.
Hmm.
Or Count Chocula, maybe, but that's about it. Okay.
Okay, so cereals will be off this week. We're going back to the breakfast entree side. and we're going to go with waffles versus pancakes.
Ooh.
We'll get that up. I'll get that up probably later on, after we
Speaking
get
of
off the air.
speaking of playoffs and tournaments, the NBA is in. We know who's in the finals, as the Celtics swept the Pacers 4-0. That's what a sweep is. And then the Mavericks won over the Timberwolves 4-1, meaning the finals start June 6th. By the way, how do you feel about the fact that they have 7 days off before they?
I don't like it. I don't like it. I mean, why have both teams sit idle for 6 days?
Because it was booked to be those days anyway. You have the TV
Nope.
time. It was booked for the TV time, I'm guessing.
I know, but for me, taking out the TV, and maybe there's a small chance that those arenas could be booked with other events, I would say, maybe give them 2 or 3 days after the
Yeah.
Mavericks series was done. Give them time to do some film, give them rest, give them some time to do some practices and scouting.
I mean, in the major
And then-
leagues, you may
and
have a
then start
day
it.
or two. Once they know who's in it, it's like a day or two. It's not a 7-day
For
period.
travel, exactly, for travel.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't like it. So if anything, at least both teams are going to be coming in cold, but you would think from an NBA standpoint of them always talking about their viewership being down, that you wouldn't want to lose the momentum of just stopping
Yeah.
action to
The-
wait just
the-
until the scheduled time of the NBA finals.
Yeah. The other question is, are there any injured players that they need to get back? Like,
Kristaps Porzingis of the Celtics has kind of been, I think he's been in and out of the lineups, so that could be an advantage for the Celtics if they get him back.
yep. Okay. Now the NHL on the other side. Rich, what's up? Oh yeah, we got to
Yeah.
We got to pick.
We do. We're going to use this as our lunch bet because Mike, there's a chance that you will be out of town and unable to record with me next week. Chance. So we're gonna we know what the NBA Finals is, so we will not use our lunch bet for the Stanley Cup Finals. Mike, I believe you have the honors. So who are you taking?
I'm gonna take the Mavericks.
Okay.
I think
Any reason
they're the
why?
better team. I just do. I mean, they have the MVP.
Okay. That gives me the Celtics, which I don't mind it. They've had an easy path through the playoffs.
That's just it. They had an easy
Um,
path. The Mavericks had better teams that they played, and they still did so
They did.
well. So
Yep.
yeah.
So yep. All right. We'll see how this shakes out. Over on the Stanley Cup Finals, right now the Rangers and Panthers. The Panthers are up 3-2 with Game 6 in Miami on Saturday. Western Conference, the series is tied 2-2 with Game 5 being played tonight,
Yep.
Friday.
So
Mike, do you see what's coming up next?
is it a left turn, Rich? And after that,
It's probably another left-hand turn.
why is that, Rich?
Well, Mike, because we're going to go into the NASCAR Corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, down on 5th Avenue, and you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated.
Okay, Rich. Last week we had 2 different races that we had to talk about. We had 3 that happened. One was the Indianapolis 500. Your winner is Joseph Newgardner. First back-to-back winner since Elio Castroneves in 2000 and 2001. Rich, you picked Santino Ferici. He took 8th. I picked Ryan Hunter-Ray, finished in 26th.
Yes, by Kyle Larson, who was attempting to do the double, but due to rain, could not complete that. Finished 18th, which is not bad as a rookie finisher. I mean, if it hadn't been for maybe a late race penalty, there's a chance that he might have been able to lead more laps. But I think he had 4 laps led
Yep.
for the race.
Yeah, I mean, a rookie leading 4 laps, that's pretty good. And then on top of it, you get 18th overall. If it wasn't for a speeding penalty, he probably is in the mix.
That's right, the speeding penalty.
He's probably in the mix for top 10. So, Yeah, that was rough. Okay. By the way, that race was delayed. What, 2 hours?
Hmm.
No, it had to be
About
later than that.
about 2 or 3 hours because of Indianapolis. So you're going around that race, and then word starts coming around. All right, does Kyle Larson leave Indy? Does he race? And then if it hits a certain point that he needs to be on the chopper to get down to Charlotte, the chopper and the plane to get to Charlotte on time, will he pull out of the Indy 500? But uh, his crew, Hendrick Motorsports, Jeff Gordon was on site for the race. They discussed it. They said he's going to run Indy regardless of how long the weather delay was. So he finished the Indianapolis 500. He did make it to Charlotte, but he brought the rain with him as the Coca-Cola 600 was called due to rain where they got through little over half of the race. So it wasn't the Coca-Cola 600, it was more like the Coca-Cola 73 miles and a half.
Um, it was. I mean, it was more than that. They got more than halfway through the race, bro. Uh,
I tried to figure it out, like 249 miles. If it took 400 laps to get the 600, so 249 is the amount of laps that they
oh
ran.
yeah,
So
you were
that's how
right. Yeah, you
that's
did it
how I
right.
got to my 173.5.
I mean, it's well here. So just so you know, we are not on Facebook currently. We are just on uh,
Our recording.
our recording, and that's fine.
Oh, okay.
We'll deal with that. 249 times 1.5. Your math is exactly correct.
Okay. There's a first time for everything.
It's a 1.5 mile track, so you just take
Oh,
the.
okay.
There you go. Um,
So I didn't like it. I mean, the
which
next
part?
day is a holiday. Them calling the race short. I mean,
Yeah.
the next
So
day was a holiday. Here's my reasoning behind it, though. It's a holiday, so it isn't like so everybody had Monday off. So maybe so the stands would attendance wouldn't have been a problem for the next day if you brought it back and started it at 11 or 10, 11 or noon the next day. All the race shops there are in the Charlotte area, so it isn't like they're having to pack everything up, head across the country, and they lose a prep day for the next race
the
because
cars
normally
are already on their way. Yeah, you're right.
they're, they're right there. So maybe they lose a prep day because Monday is usually a day off for most race teams. So they
Yeah.
lose a day, they lose a practice or a prep day, but they're not having to haul the cars, and the team isn't having to fly home or anything.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed that I would have liked to have seen if it had been something different, like they were on 300 or like 350 and decided to call it for rain. Little different, 249, still over half,
No, I can.
little over half. I didn't like it.
I can totally understand it. I'm not. I. But once they hit halfway and once it started pouring rain, I said to my dad, "It's going to be over." We still watched the delay, and it was funny. I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. I'm not staying up anymore. So I got into bed, and I have an iPad next to and I'm like, I'll
Mhm.
put it on. I'll probably fall asleep to it. My iPad will turn off in an hour or in a couple hours of me not paying attention. But as soon as I fell asleep, or as soon as I got into bed, I turned it on, and the race is over, or the race has been canceled because it's 2:30. It's gonna be 2 in the morning by the time we get it dried, and I'm like, okay, um,
I just would have liked to have seen Monday as an option to finish it. Um, Not just a straight, well, by the rule books, we're over halfway, so this does qualify to be a race by our rule book, so that's what we're going to make it. As far as how our drivers did, Christopher Bell was your race winner as he was in the lead position at the time of the red flag. Ross Chastain finished eighth, who was your pick. My pick of Chris Buescher came in 23rd. So while I still don't like that it was a rain shortened race, It counts in the points for NASCAR, so it counts in the points for us. So, Mikey, you have a 10-8 lead going into this weekend's race at the Worldwide Technology Raceway in the St. Louis area. So, Mike, who do you like for St. Louis?
Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch. Any reason, Mike?
He's good in St. Louis.
Okay. He is good with St. Louis. He has one win there, so he's going to be in my fantasy lineup. I can tell you that much. But I'm going to go with Martin Truex Jr. Both starts at the in St. Louis. He's finished in the top 5, so I'm going to go with a third one. And also, I mean, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. still has to get that payback on him, as it didn't happen in Charlotte. So maybe he takes that grudge and wrecks him out, or wrecks both of them out in St. Louis instead of Charlotte. So you can catch that race on FS1 at 3 o'clock Central Time.
Yep. By the way, good old Facebook randomly removing it because of saying that it's copyrighted material again.
Wow. Oh, well.
Okay, let's move on from there.
Okay.
Keep making left turns as we have to go to the Diamond, Rich.
Well, Mike, we got one more thing in the NASCAR corner.
Oh, yeah.
As it was announced that SHR
Stewart Haas Racing,
Stewart
for those
Haas
that don't
Racing is closing down the race shop, and in both the Xfinity and the Cup Series.
Yep.
So that means 4 charters will be up for grabs if NASCAR chooses to.
One of them's already been grabbed.
Yes, one of them was grabbed as
Your buddy's
Front
getting
Row Motorsports.
Yep.
Front Row Motorsports has grabbed up one of the charters. So they will go up to 3 guaranteed entries in each Cup race. So what are your thoughts on the SHR? I was kind of surprised. I know you were saying that, well, they mentioned it in the race, but that I was bebopping back and forth between the race and Indy, so that I must have missed that.
No, they
during the race.
did, and I was at the time I was like, what the heck is going on? I don't get it. And eventually, and then immediately after I saw the news, I called my dad and I said, hey, so because he was here this weekend, and we were hanging out. And immediately upon him finishing that, immediately upon me seeing it, I called him and said, hey, this is what's going on. He's like, what? And that's crazy. Like, and we both said, yeah, that's crazy. I don't get it. But, yeah.
I mean, if anything, as soon as Kevin Harvick retired, the talent in that race shop went downhill as rookies like Bisco, Pierce, Gregerson really didn't deliver consistent results, and sponsorship dollars walked out the door when they lost Eric Almirola.
Yep.
And Kevin Harvick, as Smithfield Foods didn't re-up once Almirola retired, and Anheuser-Busch went over to Trackhouse.
Yeah, and I think that's rough, and it's gonna be like they lost their anchor driver last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard part is there are less and less right now. There are less anchor drivers because there's not as many. Like, we're in this transition period where you have very few veterans and you have a lot of guys that are relatively new on the scene, less than 10 years. And the fan base curve in NASCAR generally starts here, goes up, and it becomes exponential. Sometimes you're a guy that goes and punches Kyle Busch, and all of a sudden you go zoom high. Sometimes it's you've been slogging for years and years and years and years and years, and then all of a sudden you have a race that you do magical on, and you spike there. So it takes time to develop that. And the other problem is as you're slogging across, all the veterans are the ones that win races. And again, you may say that it's, well, their equipment, they're this, they're the guys. The reason that we know people's names is because they're being announced. Most people that don't follow NASCAR only know the guy that wins on Sunday because your local sports thing is like, we need filler time because it's the summer and summer sucks for, like, there's nothing to talk about for sports. So let's talk about NASCAR. And they went around in a circle and then this is your winner. Congratulations. And that's all you get. And so as you get that name recognition, winning means you get name recognition, which means you get better sponsorship, which means your car can be better, which means that you're win more. That means you, and it just, that's why it continues to exponentiate as you do it. And when you have these guys that don't have that experience, haven't had that spike, haven't had that surge, why is the Watermelon Man become the second, one of the top 5 biggest names in NASCAR?
Because he's won recently. He's
Nope.
won recently. He's
Nope.
won multiple times.
Nobody
and
cares.
he's had the watermelon.
No. Here's the thing: the year that what made him famous wasn't winning all those races. It's when he took his car, shoved it on the wall, and pulled a video game move. Everybody in the world saw it. Everybody attached him to NASCAR. Everybody knows who he is. Now, Rich, you and your wife watch, but my wife knows who that is, knows who Ross Chastain is, because she's seen that move a dozen times. And kids were talking about that move in school. Everybody knows that move. That's what made him famous. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to become famous. Why? Not because he was a great driver, but because he punched a guy in the face. And he's going, and by the way, he had been doing, he does well. He's a good driver, but because he has that name recognition, sponsors will start to follow him. And as sponsors start to follow him, the money his team has goes exponentially up. And as that goes up, he gets better. His car gets better. And so what does he do more of? Win. And what happens when you win? Your name gets talked about. It's why the top teams in NASCAR win so much. It's why when you're a smaller team, a Stewart-Haas Racing, where this year, name me, you follow it, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look it up.
Okay.
I want you to name me their drivers.
Noah Gragson, Chase Briscoe. Okay. Gregerson, Briscoe, Josh Berry.
I'm
and
impressed.
Cole Custer in the Xfinity Series.
You missed 2. You missed one
2.
Xfinity driver and one Chase driver.
Okay.
Driver.
Is Riley Herbst?
Yes.
Okay, Riley Herbst. Okay.
Man,
Berry.
this is why I love you, Rich. You get into things and you memorize these names like lightning quick. You're still missing one.
Okay.
Ryan.
Oh yeah, Ryan
Pierce.
Pierce. Gotcha.
Okay. Now, fine. You knew them all, but let's ask a casual NASCAR fan.
Casual NASCAR fan, if you said SHR is closing down, do you know what SHR stands for?
Right. So it's one of those things that nobody in their stable is a super big name.
No, I think I've never seen a post where they were talking about all the wins by Stewart-Haas Racing. And if you took out if you took out Kevin Harvick and Tony Stewart from that stable, from their win totals, most of their guys have won 1 to 2 races, or zero for that matter.
So that's why it's hard, especially when you lose that stable driver. So, okay. With that, Rich, this has been the NASCAR Corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs on 5th Avenue in Moline or on their eBay store. Once again, this is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Rich, let's leave the track, but keep making left turns on the dirt as we talk about the Cubs. Man, they hit their June swoon a little early.
Yes, they did. It's been a rough couple of weeks for the Cubs. The bats are, although I think the bats are starting to come alive a little bit, just a little bit. But as it always goes, when the bats come around, the pitching goes downhill, and it's really been the bullpen lately that's been letting us down. As the Cubs, they lost both of those games to St. Louis. They lost 3 of 4 from Milwaukee, and Mike, currently they are down 4-3 to the Reds. But so we're not going to count that game since it's not a final and we're recording. So Mike, you got it right. Taking out the Reds game, they got 1 win.
Yeah.
So
and I'm gonna even if they win today, Rich. So we are heading into a week where, honestly, on paper, we should do great. But because of who these teams are that we're facing, it's not going to be easy. As we have 2 against the Reds, 2 against the Sox, 2 against the Reds in Cincinnati. Man, the Reds being a division team hurts us, and the Sox being a crosstown rival hurts us. Man, it sucks.
It does. I mean, you'd think that you'd want to have the momentum going into this series after coming back out of Milwaukee.
Yep.
Maybe splitting that series, but things just didn't go right.
Nope.
Things didn't go right. I'm just confused I'm kind of conflicted on how many wins to give them this week, because you never know. The Sox are playing terrible.
And the Reds aren't good.
Teams in baseball.
The
Reds are kind of scuffling and not doing as well as we thought they would. But it's a division game, and you got a crosstown rival game.
That's what I'm saying. You don't know what to do. So I'm going to give them 4, because if I look at it on paper, they should win 4 of these games. But I will say, don't be surprised if they win 1 of these games. So that's what I'm going to say.
All right. I'm going to go 3. I don't know where they're going to get those 3 wins, but it's 6 games, so if they can, the way they're playing right now, if they can come out of that 500, I'll be happy.
You know, Rich,
so Mike,
we just got done talking about things that make us sad about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the happiest thing to happen in baseball since Joe West retired.
Yep. This week, it was announced that Angel Hernandez would be retiring after nearly 3 decades in the game.
Rich, did you hear how it went down?
No, I did not. Go ahead,
So they
Mike.
brought him into the office, and he got they talked to him, and he argued against him. He said, "Yeah," and he walked off. Took him 5 minutes to figure out he was in the closet, and then he decided he'd retire.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
by the way, the head official of officiating called him and had to leave him a voicemail. You know why?
Why is that, Mike?
Because Angel Hernandez missed the call.
Yeah, you'd think with the way that they grade the umpires' performances now, you'd think that if you're getting
time out. They've been grading the umpires for years. It's been, you can look back, and in fact, a friend of mine was an up and coming star, was slated to be the first female to to umpire in the major leagues, and for some reason got a bad grade, so she couldn't move up. Ended up winning a lawsuit against the major leagues.
Yeah, but the Umpires Association is a pretty strong union. But I guess what I was thinking of is that if you're being graded on how well, you would think that if you get below such and such a mark, at what point do they say, well, do the union rules? We can't fire you, but you can no longer be a home plate umpire. You can
But the
only be
problem is,
an umpire on the base pass.
okay, but last week, the man didn't retire till Tuesday. Last week, it happened again on the base pass. He's on third base. The man is on third base, and the home plate catcher appeals, and he calls obviously a check strike. The guy didn't even barely comes off his shoulders, and he calls him a strike. Strikes the guy out. Wasn't that Bryce Harper?
I don't recall who it was.
I think it was Bryce Harper. And he throws a fit and he gets ejected out of the game. The man can't make a call from third base. Like, you can't be an umpire anywhere. I don't care. That ain't right.
Well, now he isn't an umpire anywhere unless he still keeps up the profession outside of Major League Baseball. Because obviously he won't be in the minors. He's obviously not going to be in the majors.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
He can't be in the majors, can't be in the minors. Okay? College. You're a college baseball. You're a college AD. You're a college athletic director, okay?
Okay.
You have to pick your umps. The NCAA doesn't provide them. You have to find them. Are you going to call Angel Hernandez to ump a game?
No, probably not.
You're a high school baseball athletic director. Angel Hernandez moves in and he says, hey, man, I'm available for games. Your choice is you have to umpire the game or you call Angel Hernandez. Do you really want to make your high school kids deal with Angel Hernandez?
No, probably not.
Right. Like, now, Angel Hernandez is getting a bunch of hate, and I think he deserves every bit of it. Why? Because he sucks. He's not done good. He's done bad things for baseball. He's hurt the brand. He's not He's not called balls and strikes correctly. But here's the problem that I have. I genuinely, I don't think he's trying to do it on purpose. And the guy's not a bad guy. He's a strong believer in Christ. He regularly does things outside of baseball that nobody knows about. That is nothing but amazing. Like, he'll buy out toy stores and take them to the children's hospital. He regularly, like, he's a genuinely nice guy. He just he's terrible at calling baseball. Like, I feel bad for him. A little bit. What I think he should be doing, and again, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but let's get it from his perspective. And again, here's the problem. His first interview he ever does, or / whatever you want to call it, the first time he's on a show as a commentator. If he's on a show as a commentator, this won't happen. But if he's ever interviewed, if he's in studio, somebody's going to be like, take a look at this. And they're going to show a clip of his worst calls. And they're going to say, how do you defend this? And he's going to be like, look at it from my perspective. And you're going to be like,
exactly.
I get that, but you called bad calls. You're at an 80% correct at your best. Like, that's not acceptable. So he's not going to do any public appearances. And by the way, here's a question, Rich. Let's say you retire from John Deere, and it becomes a public knowledge, a public forum about how terrible you were at your job, and everybody's glad Rich is gone. It's not true. I think everybody loves you. Mm-hmm. You do a great job. But let's say you all of a sudden are included on an email chain where everybody's talking about that. Do you want to go back for the Christmas party?
No, I don't.
But you're invited.
So that's why, yeah. No, probably not. And that's why probably Angel Hernandez will slip away, and you won't see because that's really the only thing he has to defend is, all right, you're seeing these calls from the pitcher's point of view with the little box that tells you whether it's a ball or a strike. Take away the little box and flip the view of the catcher or the umpire.
You got a guy right in front. You got two people right in front of you. One has a weapon in his hand. The other is catching a ball coming at you at 100 miles an hour.
And you need to make a split-second decision.
And you have to decide as the ball goes through a 20. What is the size of home plate? 26 inches.
I think so.
26 by 26, I think, is the square part, but you have that small of an area while a ball's moving 100 miles an hour through it. You have to determine its exact location. Good luck with that. Okay, next. So I feel bad for the guy, but I also good riddance to bad rubbish, all at the same time.
Yep. All right. So going on to the UFL last regular season game, and for my Memphis Showboats, it couldn't come soon enough as they lost to the DC Defenders 36-21, dropping them to 1-8. Their final home game will be against the Houston Roughnecks, who I believe are in just as bad a record.
Yep.
Mike, your St. Louis Battlehawks have qualified for the playoffs, but lost to the Arlington Renegades 36-22. Dropping them to 6-3. They'll finish up the season in with a matchup against the San Antonio Brahmas in St. Louis. So next week, when you're not on the air with me, we could have a chance we're talking USFL playoffs.
Playoffs?
Yeah, playoffs.
Wow. Okay. With that, Rich, let's do some quick NFL talk. Actually, the big news that came out this week, we're going to talk about that. We're going to push the Amazon stuff to either next week if I'm on the air or 2 weeks. Let's do that. We'll just talk. Yep. We'll talk the big news to come out as they've announced the team for Hard Knocks.
Yes, it was announced that the Chicago Bears would be appearing on Hard Knocks. Imagine that, Mike. A team that's kind of overhauled their offensive personnel, has a new quarterback, doesn't have a rookie quarterback, traded away a quarterback in Justin Fields.
Yep.
Clearing the way, although you got to admit, it would have made an interesting show if they had both quarterbacks.
Would have been way better. But this is where we're at. I've never watched Hard Knocks. I might see about getting Max for the week or for the month. Like, I might wait till it's all out and then binge watch it in 1 month, watch it, and be like, oh, that's cool. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting. I mean, a lot of the Facebook posts that I've seen about it is that it seems like the Bears got the trifecta of what every team doesn't want. They're on Hard Knocks. They got to go to the Hall of Fame game, and they got to play in London.
Yep.
But it is what it is. At least it'll give some good publicity to the Bears. Do you think their stadium will come up as far as what they think of the stadium? Whether it goes to Arlington Heights, whether they build
they're
in the Parks District?
Didn't they already determine that they're building in that Parks District area?
they still got to get state funding. That hasn't been approved yet.
Illinois loves to spend money on random crap that they don't need.
That is true. All right, Mike. So that kind of does it.
Oh wait, not your tax dollars at work. Yeah, you're in that.
Not my tax dollars.
So, Rich, are you gonna watch Hard Knocks?
I don't currently have Max, so as of now, I think I'm gonna go with no, but maybe.
Okay,
but maybe.
So, Rich, we have in quick hits. We actually don't have anything this week. Esports is done. Masked Singer's done. So no spoiler alerts. If you had been turning us off at the end of the show, guess what? You get to enjoy the end of the show this week, as we're not going to talk about the Masked Singer. But we do have, I do have at least one shout out. You have any shout outs before we get going?
Oh man, I'm trying to. No, I don't. No, I do not have any shout outs.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Jenna Stroop, who did our fantasy NASCAR last year, her birthday is today. Happy birthday, Jenna Bean, and many more. And we are like you said, next week. I had an idea for maybe a Thursday night show.
Okay, we can see if we can make that work.
Thursday night show might mean we can do a Thursday night show and neither one of us has to miss anything. So,
okay. So stay tuned. You might see a notification that we're live on Thursday.
How do they get that notification, Rich?
Well, they can make sure to like and follow us on Facebook.
Yeah.
Mike, if they're watching us on Facebook, on the odd event that Facebook doesn't take us down for no reason, where else can they see the visual portion of the show, Mike?
Well,
the recording of the show.
You can take us in the car with you wherever you get your podcasts, and if you are, if you want to watch us still, check us out on Facebook or on YouTube and search for Balls and Sticks. You'll see Rich and I in our tuxedos in the same picture that you see on our Facebook page. But if you don't have Facebook, then I guess that's not where you're going to see it. But
all right, Mike. And finally, before we roll the outro, we do a poll question every week, Mike. Where can they find those poll questions so you can vote and get a show shout out for voting on our poll?
Facebook.com/fans of Balls and Sticks. With that, Rich, what's it time to do?
Mike, let's go ahead and roll that outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.